welcome everyone to a new episode of TriPOD. Today's guest is Caris Rianne, who we're going to talk to about a few things. One thing, she's the founder of Rhianne Pictures, which obviously we're going to talk about and what Rhianne Pictures does. Rhianne Pictures launched 13 years ago, 2013. And it has a slate of script development, filmmaker workshops, and amongst other things, Caris runs a film festival, which we're very much going to talk about, a film festival that we were part of last year. We're going to talk a little bit to Caris about what led to the formation of Rhianne Pictures, what drives her to do things like the Women in Film Festival, and talk also about the journey, literally and figuratively, that she's been on from outside the Northeast into the Northeast and how that sort of impacted things. And I think we're going to talk a little bit just what we feel is the general state of play in the filmmaking industry in the Northeast. We've had a little bit of talk off mic there. So welcome to Tony, my co-host this week.
Thank you.
I was going to say it's an audio medium. And welcome to Caris. Lovely to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us. So, yes, we were talking a little bit before off mic about kind of, in simple terms, how this business, your film, came about, which what I said was Kevin and I were starting to make inroads in the Northeast film industry. And for various reasons, kind of went, actually, there's sort of a divergence of paths here. There is the, let's call it the commercial film and television, short films, all that kind of stuff, arm of the industry. Then there's the more corporate arm of the industry, which is what we moved into. But we were talking about there is a large crossover in terms of the talent pool. So I'm interested to get your sort of feelings on what you think today in 2026 the Northeast film industry is and looks like, because particularly, of course, there's been a lot of noise made recently about, fabulous stuff, the new studio that's going to be built, that kind of thing. It does feel like wherever we are now is about... I think the general feeling seems to be that we're actually in a decent place and we're going to get a lot better. And I sort of go along with that, but, there's always debate. So I'm very curious to know how you see the Northeast film industry scene at the minute.
Oh, a big question on my shoulders there. It's a mix, isn't it? We've got so much exciting development happening. Like Kim McGuinness, I think, has done amazing work in the Northeast with the investment, saving the studio, because God knows what happened there. Bringing that to the region, because I feel like there's two ways: there's commercial and there's independent. We get these great big film productions come to our region, but that's a short space in time. We had Vera, which ran for years and years and hired so many people, was such a great part of the ecosystem, and that's now gone. There hasn't been a direct replacement of that, which obviously means those jobs are still not fulfilled. And with the Northern Studios, that went from 8,000 new jobs to, I think now the figure is 600. So there's exciting things happening, but there's definitely a lot more space for growth. And that's the commercial side. With the independent side, you've got real amazing people making brilliant short form work, banding together to make features. There's a lot more collaboratives happening.
Both. Let's go with both.
Yeah, why not? There's loads of them. And that's really great because you're seeing younger people come into film, but also people staying in film, whether it's through producing short films or working together and developing their skill sets. I think the universities are really expanding, particularly Northumbria, Teesside as well.
Expanding in what way?
Just their courses, and the quality of work coming from those courses is increased year on year. So I've been watching shorts from the Northern School of Art, and each year they're getting better and better and better. And they're thinking more, how is this short film going to get me in the industry? It's not, this is just my final year piece and then I'm going to move on and, move out to wherever I'm going to go. And I think that's the really great people behind it leading them, which is exciting.
So, sorry, you think that, or say that applies across the university sector? Because obviously you just mentioned specifically kind of more like an art school. Yeah. The reason I'm asking is, if that is the case, I think that's fantastic. But I would say certainly, let's say over the last 10 years, a lot of the staff that we have hired over the last 10 years, this has been often their first job out of university or their second job. So we've heard a lot kind of firsthand what their opinion of the system has been and whether they've been pushed or not. And I would, in broad brush terms, say the people that we've hired tend to be the few who seem to be a bit more self-starting and who, regardless of what push they might have been given by the university, were probably going to do that anyway. But it sounds like what you're saying is that you're seeing the evidence that the actual institution itself is starting to kind of find more people to flourish as opposed to just allowing certain people to pass through as they kind of would anyway. Is that right?
Yeah, I do. And I think it all comes down to who's leading that, isn't it? And the conversations and whether they're spotting opportunities for their students outside of what they're meant, what their standard is. Particularly like the Northern School of Art, like with Kate Mudd, so she leads one of the courses there. We'll be in touch and she'll be like, do you know anything going on? I'm like, yeah, we've got shadowing positions, like send them this way. Similar over, I think, Northumbria. I know someone who works there and they'll be like, oh, you've worked on this short film. Have you thought about sending it to these festivals? They've got student placements. So it's those people that could think outside the box. So it's not just the standard, you're going to go to university, you're going to do this course and then good luck. It's okay, well, now you're like second year. What can we start implementing now that's going to start building your career so you don't get that gap?
Right.
Because that bridge, I think, after uni across the UK for creatives, particularly those in film, unless you've got a job promised to you the second you walk off campus, you are stuck. And if you're moving back home to a region or a rural part of the UK where there is no work, you are stuck. And that's really hard for people to get out of. And that's where they usually end up going to another profession. And then they've lost all that talent and all that time they've spent at university. And we've lost another artist kind of thing. Yeah. So I think there has been some recent changes. There's definitely more changes to make. That's me and my emails. But I think we've got such great companies up here and festivals up here that we should just all be working together to get these young people in more experiences, more placements, so they stay here and build our region. Yeah.
And that's been a sort of like an issue for years and years and years, which actually brings me on to my first question for you is you're not originally from up here, right?
No.
Like myself.
I was going to say it takes one to know one.
Yes, that's right. So what inspired you to move up to the Northeast?
Yeah, well, it was my family. So my partner was from Darlington, born and bred, and that classic looking for a house. And I always, adaptable to a challenge.
Are you saying Darlington's a challenge?
It's a flourishing town. No, it's become my home. And I feel like when I started my research, like there was a film club and I got in touch with them and, I chatted to Film Hub North and was like, I'm moving here. Like, what is there to do? Like, I want to get involved. And that was from the very beginning. I was like, I want to be part of this. I don't want to come and just start doing my own thing. Yeah.
Were you still in university at this point or were you post-university at this point?
I've never been to university.
Oh.
No, I didn't.
Neither have I.
Well, there you go. See? We're doing all right, aren't we?
We're doing all right, yeah.
Yeah, so I started going to events and screenings and working on a few film shoots. And there was just one big gap, which was there just was not enough women.
Right.
On production, in the events and screenings. I had a couple of really bad experiences, which really put me off going to any of them again. So I took a bit of a pause. I made a film in Darlington, and then COVID happened anyway. So it was a bit of a gap. And I was talking to more women in the industry, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I'd never go to that event. It's awful.
Right.
Oh yeah, I don't go to that event. I wouldn't go near that person, or I wouldn't work with them."
Okay.
But it was like
without getting too specific,
Yeah.
is this like basically the classic kind of behaviour that we're talking about, or is it anything? Okay.
It's the classic. And what really upset me was that it was just, that's what it's like.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's just a
So
matter of
it's
fact. You just
acceptance.
it's more about sharing knowledge as to who to avoid as opposed to trying to
That's
address the
it.
problem.
Which
Which I
isn't-
understand. It's not that individuals. Yeah, I get that,
No.
but
it's a lot
bad
on someone's
situation,
shoulder to balance a power and to be like, don't go near that person.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I started to put two and two together and thought, okay, well, we need something new and positive that doesn't compete against that. It's just a new window of like, well, you know what, let's have this little space here where we can start to have those conversations, have those experiences without whatever's going on over there. Obviously, at the time, there was a lot going on with Tyneside Cinema as well. So there was quite a lot of work to be done in the region within that area that was very heavy for women in the region.
Do you remember the Tyneside Cinema issue, Tony? That's been referred to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was bad press for a good couple of years there, wasn't it? I mean,
Very much so.
I think they've turned everything around now, but it was interesting when that happened because of the impact it seemed to have on people that I know in the industry who weren't connected to it, but because of what it is, because it's an institution, basically, it had way more of an impact than I imagined they ever imagined it would have beyond the four walls of the Tyneside Cinema. It was quite telling, I thought.
Yeah. Well, the BFI left Tyneside Cinema They used to have a hub in Tyneside, they had a hub in Holme in Manchester, and they had a hub in Sheffield, and they just pulled out. And then the whole of the Northeast then lost that industry presence, which understandably was for the right reasons at that time related to that issue. But, you know, we've got other cities and towns, you know, up the road, Sunderland, Darlington, Durham, dare I say Teesside. So
You dare.
I dare. So there could have been another. So it was quite a difficult time, I think, which again kind of inspired me to work on an event that could potentially serve that gap that I'd identified, really.
Yeah. And it's quite interesting because obviously, you know, you come up to the region and you fully immerse yourself in the actual industry, as opposed to just, as you said, just coming up and doing your own thing. And so sort of, were you always that type of person? So when you were down south, obviously, was it more challenging to make you or get yourself noticed, to sort of, how can I say, be a front runner and champion in, you know, a new sort of, how can I say, culture, essentially, where you're trying to actually encourage women to be more immersed in the industry themselves as well. So what was the difference between sort of being down south and being up north?
Yeah, I think, so I started studying film in like 2013.
Yes.
And straight away, it was a gender thing, but also it was a class thing. Yeah. It was you from a working class background, you didn't know anybody, you weren't coming on set. If you weren't in that group, if you didn't go to that, like I said, I didn't go to university, and I was working with a lot of post-grads who had been to university, formed their circle, part of a film society, had worked on, you know, a Guy Ritchie set, and would not shop about it. You get it?
You wouldn't though, would you?
No, I would too. I'm like, yeah, fair. Understandable. Yes. So it was just constant barrier to entry.
Yes.
That was really frustrating. So that was before I kind of set up Rhianne Pictures and wanted to focus on women's access. It was very much about working class access and trying to get on a film set. It's like, oh, you haven't got enough experience. Like, it's a runner.
How do you get the experience?
Well, yeah,
I want to be a runner.
You mentioned before about the big productions that tended to kind of swallow up most of the year here in the Northeast, which was great when it was going on, because there was typically Vera, Dumping Ground, you know, that kind of, there was usually a couple of things that took up most of the year. And what was interesting was, obviously I wasn't part of these productions, from the people that we work with who were, it very much felt like there was one big group of people that moved from one thing to another, and it was is still, and I understand that there is a reason for this, but still very much a hierarchical structure. So DOPs that we were working with, for example, you know, they were DOPing for us, but then there was second camera assistant on Vera because they had to work their way up through the chain. They weren't upset about that. However, there was still the element of how do you get literally a foot on set in the first place to be able to start to work up that ladder. And consistently what everyone said was, if they were ever given advice, it was just offer yourself to be a runner, because the only way you're going to get in there is by getting in there. Like there's no secret to it. You just got to force your way in, and then you can start to get up the ladder. But it was always a semi-closed shop, I think.
Majorly. And I definitely experienced that. And I think there was 1 month where I was like a runner on 6 productions, because I just wanted to see how it worked, see how people communicate. Like there's so much things you don't learn in an educational experience, like the shorthand you say on set, the way people stand, like the position of the clapperboard, like all these little things.
The politics of it as well.
The politics. Some people really don't like that clapperboard.
I just meant the politics of the set, not just the clapperboard.
Seriously, I've learned people really don't like a clapperboard as well. But it's all that you wanted to learn, and I think back to that, and like those experiences were so great and shaping, but they were also filled of so much weirdness as well. And you know, I remember when I moved from like runner to production assistant, and then I got my first production manager job, and I was like, this is great. Wow, okay. I'm going through the ranks.
Yes.
And got on set, and they were like, can you go get some coffee? And me being just like,
I'm not a runner.
I was just like, yeah, sure, like, what do you need? He's like, oh, there's go find the production manager. And I was like, oh no, wait, that's me. That's me. And I was like, oh no, I'm the production manager. And they laughed at me.
No.
And I just thought, but then back in then, I was like a 22-year-old people pleaser. Like, oh, I'm so lucky to be here. Yeah. I can't.
Which I was going to say. By the way, that's totally understandable in that scenario. Whoever you are, it's like, well, I'm starting to make my way up. I've got a foot in the door. You want to, that makes sense.
You don't want to rock the boat, and I think that's coming from being working class too. Like, none of my family's worked in the arts. Like, my uncle worked for Sky fitting dishes. Like, that's the closest we've got. Yeah. And nobody, so I was like, this is on me to do this. And then later on that film set, they thought I was the makeup girl, and then they thought I was the actor, and then they thought I was the producer's girlfriend, and I was like, what is going on here? Like, why?
You could have just yes-anded your way into a fantastic life there. So yeah, I'm the lead actress. Yeah, I'm the producer's girlfriend.
Great, yeah. Where's the director's chair? But it was those experiences that were just so frustrating, because I was leaving each day feeling so drained from just fighting of what my role was. And you know, I'll get coffee, like I'm not too precious for that. But it was that kind of, I've walked in the door and straight away you've thought I'm the lowest ranking person on set, which I don't believe in anyway, but that's what the industry standard is. And that's when I started to move into making my own films. I was like, I hate this. I just want it, the door open. Who wants to work on a film set? We've got no money. We've got all this kit to use. Who wants to do it? And in my hometown of Harlow, that's what we did. Like, we had people come in from London or out the kind of like home counties. We had people that I've grown up with, and we all just worked together. And I just loved that ecosystem we created, and that's kind of like where Rhianne Pictures come from. So it was first and foremost working class, and then the women thing come along the more I got frustrated and angry. The more I was like, hang on a minute. I am not his girlfriend.
Wrong here.
When you were on set and you were observing the way people interacted with you, I assume by the sounds of it, you're also observing that perhaps the 22-year-old lads were being treated differently. Is that fair to say?
Majorly, and that was through, you know, they'd know each other and they'd be there because they knew someone's uncle or someone's friend's dad or things like that. And it wasn't because they weren't working as hard as me or anything like that, but it was, you know, they had more to bond over. And it was that kind of culture you get on set. So there'd be jokes about, you know, women, or jokes about women's bodies, that just really made things uncomfortable. And I think that just breeds, and like people get more confident and like, oh, well, that's okay here, so I'm going to say this, and oh, that's okay, so I'm going to say this. And that's what I found quite uncomfortable. And nobody ever would mistake, if I was a man, they wouldn't be like, oh, you're obviously the runner.
Yeah. But did the language not change when you were present? No. Okay.
No. And that's what was tough, because it's from having no experience. I was like, oh, this is what it's like. And then I'd meet, like, I found this brilliant organisation called Cine Sisters, who were all these female directors, and they met once a month. And I'd be like, oh yeah, I was on set and this happened. They were like, no, that's not okay. That's not right. And I was like, oh, okay. So like, I can stand up for myself. I was like, walk off set. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it was kind of that very green element of being on a film set,
which is understandable, on a lot of different levels.
Because what's the difference? What's the knowledge that I would have known for? And that's what I was like, I want to make sure that the girl in 10 years' time who's walking on set and gets mistaken for the runner turns around like, what do you reckon? You look at the coffee. So that was my kind of vision at that moment in time. Just a very angry girl in my early 20s, fighting for like runner jobs and just being like, yeah, this is really rubbish.
So on that basis, then your stated aim was to work your way up that ladder to one of the top positions on set, as opposed to being the captain of your own ship and making your own films? Because you started by saying you're on set to get experience, but you're sort of implying there that actually there was a scenario where if you'd been treated a little bit differently, or if you'd had a little bit different knowledge, you would have just continued to work your way up and become, you know, say production manager or exec producer or something like that. Is that kind of what you were trying to do, or was it always that no matter what, this was about getting experience to go and do your own thing?
No, I think it was a point of, I'm so fed up now, I'm going to do my own thing. Which was hard, and a lot of my friends at the time were like, oh, well, you know, how do you know this is going to work? Like, how do you know your film's going to be good? How do you know people are going to work with you?
You don't.
And that was the thing. I was like, well, do you know what? I'm going to try it, and if it's absolutely terrible, then I will go get a job as an accountant. So no offense to accountants.
You know. And so in the formative sort of years, did you have a lot of support and help from like funds and stuff like that, or?
Oh no. I didn't even know, again, going back to having no industry experience, I didn't even know you could get funding for a short film.
Right.
Which is interesting, because in your, let's call it life story so far today, there's been a lot of instances like the Cine Sisters just mentioned. You seem to be very adept at finding groups and clumps of people and enclaves and things. So it's interesting that you found the people, but you didn't find the funding. So presumably the funding was there. you just didn't know where to look for it, or it wasn't signposted well enough?
Definitely. I think they've done a lot more work in recent years to make funding information accessible, and breaking down, like, I know recently they've changed the spreadsheets and application forms, so they're less jargon.
Right.
But I was, at the time I was in the Southeast, one of the most competitive film hubs, next to London, one of the most competitive film hubs. So the idea of someone with very limited industry experience, I didn't even think it was worth going for.
Right.
I just thought, this is so far beyond me. I've been on film sets where they all seemed to really know what they were doing. And every film set I was on was self-funded by the director.
Right.
So I thought, this is a rich people's game.
Which is very unusual, let's be honest.
Well, it wasn't at the time, I don't think.
Feature films, really, self-funded by the director?
Not so much features. This was more shorts. The features would usually have like a co-production with like a private company. But yeah, that was kind of what the kind of layout was. So with my shorts, I was just saving money. I wasn't going on holiday. I was saving money. I was working full time. I got a big redundancy payout from my first job. So I was like, I'm going to use this to go to film school. I'm going to use this to make a few films. Much to the pleasure of my family, as you can imagine.
Yes.
Like, are you going to buy a house? Are you going to buy a car? I'm like,
no, I'm going to make some films.
I make some films.
No, ma'am, no, dad, I'm going to follow my dream.
Follow my dream.
That's what you want from me, isn't it?
No.
Which, it went down so well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I did not know that funding was available. And by the time I did,
You spent all your money.
I'd spent all my money. And that's when I started learning more about crowdfunding and the application side and private investment as well. It's that kind of, like you said, being adaptable, learning from each person I worked with. I'd get back on the train home, like write down a list of everything I learned that day and be like, right now I'm going to email this person tomorrow. So that was kind of how I started getting that funded.
As I'm sure you know, this is for you, Tony, Sam Raimi, who made The Evil Dead in the early 80s, and the Coen brothers, who made Blood Simple in the mid-80s, Sam Raimi raised his money by going to local dentists and raising money off them, and the Coen brothers went to local doctors.
Wow.
Because they were the people that had money in the town.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
It's any route to success, isn't it, really?
That was more normal, I think, to going to a festival and speaking to a rich person
Yes.
that loved the art.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'll give you 500 quid. And I'd be like,
I'll be your patron.
I was like, what? Why? Because I grew up in like a working class family in a town that didn't have anything like that. For someone to be like, I'll give you 500 quid. You're like, why? What have I done?
Yeah.
Do you want it back? Is this a loan shark thing?
Right.
Are you going to be on my door?
Yeah.
So going to doctors and dentists was the original crowdfunding. That's it, yeah.
It's alien.
I want to go back to something you said a few minutes ago about when you talk about, well, it's the first question, when you talk about the North East Sea, and you said there's people coming together to make stuff. Does that mean that people have, this guy's got a camera, this guy's got a sound kit, and they're coming together in that sense? Or are they coming together to pool the other resources and then go out and get what are they bringing together? Is it expertise? Is it practical equipment? How's that working?
I think it's just people in your close radius who want to do something. And then what I'm seeing quite a bit of is people upskilling. So speaking to a few people at the weekend, they were like, I'm a DOP, but I'm going to get my electrician qualification, so I'll become a gaffer. So that when there's no DOP jobs, I can be a gaffer. And when there's no gaffer jobs, I can be a soundie. And so it's kind of grouping together to see who's got the skills, who's got the kit, who can work together, and then making that happen. So despite rather than waiting months and months for a rejected funding application or waiting for a big investment, it's like, okay, what do we have right now? And who's got a good script? Who can act? Who can direct? Who can do that? And actually just making it anyway, which I find really admirable.
Yeah.
And I think it's brilliant that more of that's happening and people are really leading that way. I do think, when you look at a year period when say 15 short films get made, could we not all work together and make one great feature from the Northeast? Ooh. That's one idea I would float around. I'm on the BIFA board for watching films, and sometimes I'll watch 5 features that are not great. And I think if you all work together and made one good film, that would be really great. But I think a lot of people want to be the director. Yeah. They want to be the leader.
Yeah.
And that collaboration is something that we do need to work on a little bit more, because go back to the French cinema, 60s and 70s, they all just took turns. Right. You be the director, you be the DOP, you be this, you be that. And it all worked out for them if you look at they all were successful. Yeah. I think we need a bit more of that.
Is that ultimately a gap for producers then? Does it need a strong producing voice to come forward and say,
I think so.
Here's 3 people that you could all be directors. However, I think if you can find out to nominate one of you, we can work on something here, you know?
Absolutely. Or, co-directors, they exist in the world very successfully.
The Coen brothers, who we just mentioned.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, a lot of animation films, they are always co-directed. So
Sometimes
I think,
it's a group of people, isn't it? 4 or 5 people.
Absolutely. So I think it's a concept I'd love more people to explore. And when I see, universities do it, and it seems to work out quite well. And there's the Northeast Young Women's Film Academy, and they do as a group work and make good work. So I think that would be quite good, because rather than like several low budget, low quality projects, which are good and great, and that should be done, we should all explore our artistic vision. But I think if we actually collaborate together, that'd be, for the ecosystem, would be really, really great, because then we could all champion this great film from the Northeast. And be like, look how far it went, because we all work together.
True.
That's what I'd kind of potentially say.
The vision,
yeah. The end goal.
Yeah. But this is the thing, I suppose, sort of people will sort of be against that, because they sort of say, well, actually, where's my time to shine? I'm making this short film so that I could be seen as being the director, producer, whoever.
Absolutely.
Well, let's dig into that, because I was going to say, and I know I'm not expecting you to put an official number on this, but there must be thousands of short films made in this country every year, let alone just the Northeast. I'm sure there's hundreds and hundreds in the Northeast. And at different, very low budget levels, there must be a lot of features getting made as well. There are obviously, well, you'll know, roughly how many festivals are there in England at this point?
God,
film festivals?
I mean, there's 14,000 in the world.
Wow.
Okay.
I don't know England, but that's a good...
Rang every one of them.
I'm on the mic. But it'd be good to get a number in the UK. I mean, in the Northeast, we've got, I'd say, 4 that are doing great, and there's a few that are popping up. Sorry, back to your question.
Well, what I was going to say was, certainly in our lifetime as a business, which is now 21 years, and certainly even in your lifetime since 2013, the constant pace of technology getting better and better. I always say to people, the video camera on this phone is way better than the video camera we used to launch this business. So from a technological point of view, there is no barrier to entry anymore. It's about creativity and having access to whatever, which I get. So it makes total sense that there'd be an explosion in the numbers of films. However, that obviously, to me, naturally means that opportunity to rise out of that and be seen massively diminishes. So that's the argument for what it's all about, isn't it? If people can band together and, for the short term, some of them put their ego to one side to say, well, I understand that I might want to be a writer and director, but if I can help this project get a higher profile, then, rising tide lifts all boats and stuff. It sounds like we all think there's appetite for that, but it's not necessarily happening at the minute. Is that fair?
I think so. And even I've not directed for about 4 years because I've had babies. And when I was kind of like ready to get back into the driving seat, I was kind of looking at what was happening, and I was like, well, there's a few projects going on right now that I find really exciting that I could invest in with what I would have put into maybe like a low budget short film, or I could come on board and help these projects like survive and like level up, help them with production, distribution, and post and marketing and that side of it, festivals, exhibition. So I did that, and I reached out to them, and I had an open call, and I had loads of scripts come through, and I chose that, and that's me. I'd love to direct again, but that's been like, well, I'm going to just sit back in my executive producer role and help these people instead. And those projects are probably going to do further what my one film would have done. So rather than one film that might have gotten a couple of festivals, or might have done well, I might have scratched my creative brain, I've got 3-4 that are now potentially going to do really, really well. So it's that kind of energy, really. It's that collaborative energy.
Because then the next time you're speaking to someone who might have some money, for you to say, oh, I've produced 4 films this year that have gone in all these festivals, is arguably more impactful than saying I made a film.
Exactly. It's a long game. That's the thing I think sometimes we don't think about, is that experience level again. Like, nobody wants, well, maybe they do. Nobody wants to be a runner on 6 films in a month. but to get the experience level to go then
they
go
do
and
for
do
1 month.
They do for 1 month, yeah.
but that's it.
It's not a long-term thing. But then, you know, I made 10 films after that I probably would not have done without having that crazy month of, you know, getting on the tube every 10 minutes.
Well, this is the other thing, isn't it? And again, this gets back to what people have fed back to us about specifically the Northeast scene, but I'm sure it's applicable everywhere. Once you get into that ecosystem, the next job more often than not comes from, for the sake of argument, the gaffer who's booked on another job and says, oh yeah, actually, if you want to run out or such and such, book this lad because I worked with them on the last one. Yeah. Like, it's still very much it's not what you know, who you know kind of thing. And, you know,
it's also how you act as well, because I think a lot of people, they get on set and they don't realise that you're all working together, and you know, if the gaffer that's got that job, if there's 3 of you, he's going to pick the one that was, you know, the most sound that day, like the one that was, you know, most collaborative, the one that they got on with.
The one that was the least hassle.
The least hassle, yeah. You know, the one that actually got coffee. So, and that's not that kind of hierarchical thing, but it's just be good to people and they'll want to work with you.
Yeah.
And you look at it, the big industry, like the people who work together over and over again, and even in the short film world, you know, we still get the same producers and directors every year come to the festival because they want to work with good people. It's such a hard work, working in independent film. Why make it harder by working people that don't want to do that? And I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah, particularly when, let's be honest, in a lot of cases those people are getting no pay or low pay.
Exactly.
The last thing that you should be doing as someone who's leading that team is treating them badly, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't understand it. I've never done that on a film set because I just don't see the point. It's not my character and nature either, but I've been on film sets where that's happened and I'm just like, why? We're all here, we all want to do, it's all a passion project, or there's very little money involved. And also, like 9 times out of 10, they will never work with that person again because of how they were treated that day.
Yeah.
And good.
Yeah, and also to get back to something you said earlier, there's also then the, let's call it the Whisper Network, which is, you know, has its advantages because it's not
the voice note network now.
Well, there you go.
I get a voice note randomly, I'm like, something's gone down on set. Yeah.
Well, obviously, I'm not in them, but I'm aware that I'm aware that there are WhatsApp groups for all kinds of crew, you know, big WhatsApp groups, and those are the sorts of places where people do put notes in to say, hey, I was on set with such and such, and this went down. You know, people should be careful, which is good. I think is ultimately good.
Yeah.
The more accountability, obviously, the better. So that sort of leads me back onto your particular path, which obviously has, I'm going to say, culminated in that you've established a festival. Obviously, the festival has a life beyond being established. But let's talk about your festival and how that came, because I didn't realize until this conversation that you'd kind of started out, as you said, from the more general working class element, and then that sort of through your own experience and others giving you little nudges had funneled into a bit more focus on women in particular. So talk to me please about the Women X Film Festival, how it started, how it's going, what sort of, you know,
what's next.
Sell it to me. You don't need to because I've already been, but sell it to the audience. Sell it to Tony. He's never been. Tony's never been.
Yeah, I've never been. I'm on Dragon's Den now. It's a lot of pressure.
Don't worry, you've got the investment.
I've got the investment.
Peter Jones here.
He's the scariest one.
That's why I chose him.
Oh God, where to begin? So I worked in festivals all the way through to about 2018, and then when I moved here, I started doing a bit of programming for other festivals. And the biggest thing I saw was there was just not enough female directors in the program, which would be one issue. But the other issue was there wasn't enough female stories in the program either. So when I was going to these festivals, yeah, it was exciting, it was enjoyable, but also I was like, I'm not connecting to anything here.
Right, yeah.
Or if there was a story, it wasn't authentic. It was, you know, a bit. I was like, that was ridiculous. Why have you made that story about a woman?
Which is interesting because in context, 2018 is obviously right after the Me Too movement started.
Exactly.
And obviously a little bit after the Oscar So White thing and the big diversity push there. But my point being that the general clamour for more diversity in general, more female voices in the industry kind of started right around that time.
It did. And I feel like before the Me Too movement, there was it was just normalized. That's just what it was. Like I said on set, like you be treated like that, and that was part of the industry. You know, shouted about it in the rooms with your safe people, and then you just get back into it. And I think after 2018, there was a lot more push for, you know, you'd start getting women's films like sections in festivals, which was good, but it's also pigeonholing.
Yes.
It's a tick in the box, and it's, you know, out of 200 films, you're programming 5. Like, that's not
also,
progress.
what's a women's film? Is it for women?
Exactly.
Is it made by women? Does it star women?
Yeah, and you'd have all
three?
these things like, the Bechdel test and the F-rated thing, and it's like, why are we creating all these algorithms? Like, just authentically program. And then all these people that were programming these films were men. So it wasn't, hire these women, bring them into your team and have that natural kind of, collaboration in there. So that was a bit of a frustration. And then I was working with festivals, and I'd put all my notes in like, this film's really great, and it would never end up in the program because all the judges were then male. So it was like every layer you got to, you were knocked down again. So you'd make a film despite the odds, but then you wouldn't get in a festival. You get in a festival, then you'd be programmed on like a Tuesday at 2 p.m. and not nominated for an award. Yeah. Or you'd win an award and then you'd never get into the festival again. So every time it was the ceiling you'd be hitting.
And to ask a delicate question, you're saying this, I assume, based on the fact that, as you said, if you're a programmer, you're watching a huge amount of content.
Yeah.
So you're saying this genuinely based on the quality level. It's not a case of, it happened to be directed by a woman, therefore it's been discounted. But you're saying you're watching quality work, seeing it against other work, which perhaps has been elevated above the quality work.
Yeah. Okay. And a lot of that as well, it comes from festivals. They make their friendships, they make their connections. They're going to program their friends. They're going to program people that they know. They're going to program. It's a natural instinct.
It's an extension of this the set atmosphere we're just talking about.
It's another level of that in a longer kind of form. And you get those connections come in, and you'd have retrospectives, and it'd be like the same 6 films again, and you get people brag like, I'll definitely be in that festival again, I'm in it every year. And you're like, wow, where's like the gap that's going on? So setting up Women X was kind of like an angry reaction to that, but I wanted it to mainly be, it was never meant to be what it is now.
This might be the 3rd time in this conversation you've been fueled by anger, which I like.
I am in therapy, just it's okay. The younger
You've
version,
channeled it in the right way.
the younger version of me, it's channeled in quite a nice direction. I'm not part of a fight club. Although the first rule,
of course,
is,
how would we ever know?
How would you know? But it was
classic feminist film fight club.
I was really sad when I went to film school. Like, that's a really misogynistic film. I was like, but I love it. It's on my wall. But that's that challenge. We'll get on to that in a minute. But I wanted to do a one-day event of panels where people can just speak about their experiences, some workshops to inspire people to basically start mobilizing and start channeling their work into the right spaces. Like, there were right festivals that wanted to program people and were open to changing up the systems and doing what they wanted to do. So I wanted that kind of information sharing outside the WhatsApp groups and the Whisper networks to be in one space. And then I said, we'll show a few short films. We're a first year event. Nobody's going to know who we are. They won't want to send their film in because, festivals who are new don't really have a lot of good reputation, and people don't want to waste their time.
How do you start a festival and tell people that you need film submissions? How do you do that
Exactly.
on the most basic level?
Well, we had already had a network from Rhianne Pictures. We've been growing that for 7 years at that stage. We'd done events in London. We'd done screenings. We were very good at networking because we generally wanted to be in those spaces. We weren't going there to do a LinkedIn post. We were going there because we wanted to watch those films and champion those stories. So we launched it, and it just was shared and shared and shared and shared. And we had 200 films come in, which I was like, what? But now I've got to watch them all. So that's great. But
and then you started picking your friends' films.
Yeah, and I was like,
By the way, in his entire life, Tony hasn't seen 2.
No, I haven't.
I've got a list. And we had no idea what we were doing. There was 5 of us at the time, and we'd all been to the festivals, we'd all worked on films, and we knew what we wanted to do. And so we were really building from scratch. And then COVID happened, and we were like, oh my God. What are we going to do?
Funny enough, you had a lot more time in your hand to watch films.
Yes.
Exactly. I was like, oh no, you're on furlough. Walk on Film Freeway. Jokes aside. So that's how and I think COVID definitely helped.
Right.
I think the lockdown definitely helped because we were able to, everyone was online. Remember, everyone was on Instagram Live every single day. So we were still doing what we were always doing. It's just more people were there to see it. So there was that natural growth from that. And then we had to put the festival online. And I thought, it was great that we did this. I was already planning
For failure.
Yeah, okay. I was like, we launched a festival, we got 200 people invited, we can't do the in-day panel, we got some panelists to speak on Zoom, we'll put like online tickets up, we'll charge a small fee, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, because at this point, just getting the thing done was the success.
Fulfilling the promise to the filmmakers, and, it was kind of tick on. Like I said, I was already preparing, like, okay, 2021, I'm going to do something different. We'll go back to making a film. And 180 people like bought a ticket. So we had 180 people for the weekend, and it was so engaging. And straight afterwards, they were like, "What's next?"
Wow.
And I was like, "I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's next."
planned this.
I didn't plan this. I have no idea what's going
feedback
on.
cards go, that's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, it was really good.
What's next?
What's next?
Yeah.
I was like, sleep. And the first edition of that festival was so crazy. I mean, we were in an office building, all with our laptops. My dog was running around. I was cleaning up dog poo off the carpet in between Q&As. I think at one point that she was like humping the guests,
Oh, God.
the dog, to be clear. The second day I was broadcasting from my home because we couldn't have the office 2 days, and my smoke alarm went off 3 times. So I was like running, like it was just chaos.
Yes.
Like I couldn't, if I went to that event, I'd be like, what? Who is this person? They are insane. What is this festival? But they stuck with us.
Yeah.
They stuck with us, and that audience grew and grew. And even the second year, we only had 30 people turn up in person, 200 people turned up online. And that was, people were still wearing masks back then, but people came, they traveled, they come to watch the festival. And then the third year, it's like slow growth over time. That we've built up and built up. And the key point is that it's just a safe space to come to, but it's also fun.
Yes.
And it's celebrating their work. And through time, we've adapted it. So we've added on the script residency. So if you haven't made a film, you can come and develop your script. If you have a pitch, if you're a member of the industry, if you want to meet new people, we've added the family screens, because when I had my children, I couldn't go to anything.
Right.
Like I wanted to go see, it was The Northman, that film with...
Anya Taylor-Joy, and I can't remember the name of the guy in it.
Yeah, Alexander Skarsgård.
That's him.
And I called the cinema and I was like, "Oh yes, I'm going to come with my baby." No. Like, "Oh, no. They're under 15. I'm like, "Yeah, they're also under 15 days old." Like,
They're a baby.
There's nothing that's they're going to watch on that screen that's going to remotely
They
penetrate
can barely
their
see
confidence.
the screen and they can't understand any of the dialogue,
They
so
can't.
we're fine.
So like we're fine. No, you can't. If you turn up, we're going to turn you away. And so I couldn't even go to the cinema. Like the one thing that I loved, I've loved films since being a child, I couldn't even go to so I was shut out. They had no baby screenings on at Darlington. No festivals have baby screens, and when you go, you look like an alien wheeling in your pram, and all the filmmakers are like, "What's going on?" So it was that, again, it was another ceiling you hit, like, "Oh, I've made a festival, I'm in the industry, I'm not allowed to go to the cinema anymore."
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay, I'm not allowed, I'm confined to my home. And
For the crime of having children.
For the crime of having children, more cinema goers, to join our economy. I'm trying to start a film club here, guys. I'm 2 down, I've got a few more to go.
Out of curiosity, was this literally down to they wouldn't let a baby in, or because of the certificate, or was it just that they wanted you to buy a second ticket, which I'm sure you would have done?
BBFC.
It was about the baby. That's crazy.
Which is
That's
what,
crazy.
and you can get around that because there are baby screenings. Showcase and Teesside do them, Northallerton's, Everyman do them. I went to see Bridget Jones with my son, and that's definitely not appropriate for him, but it's branding and it's access, and that's what's so frustrating. And I think when I become a mother, I didn't want to put my career on pause. I wanted to build my career around being a mum, and that was such a challenge, not through my own willingness. It was through the people around me putting up these barriers. It just made no sense to me. So the way we've grown the festival is every challenge we come across. So
You've addressed it.
We've addressed it, and we've lent in, and we've listened to feedback, and actually thought, how can we fix this rather than
your kids were at your festival when I was there.
Yeah, I can't get rid of them. I can't. They're just wandering around. But it's lovely, and we had families last year come. We had people from industry, like someone come who worked at the BBC. They travelled to Darlington just to bring their kid to a festival.
Wow.
Because there isn't anywhere else like
they
that
can
in the
do that,
Northeast.
yeah.
So they didn't come see a film. They wanted to watch, we had the Gruffalo on last year. And then she was like, "Oh, I'm going to come back later and watch a film by myself. Is that okay?" So is it okay? Of course it is.
Yeah.
So,
well, I have to congratulate you, because obviously I was at the festival last year. We were one of the sponsors, which I'm proud to say. And I thought the vibe was excellent.
Thank you.
It was relaxed. It was clearly full of people who just want to see films, who are just excited by films. I didn't get any sense of, like you said before, there was no one there just to make a LinkedIn post, put it the way you put it. Everyone was there because they were either they had work themselves that was in competition, they wanted to see other people's work genuinely, or they just wanted to be part of something that you've obviously built, which is to say, we're all here of obviously there was men and women there. It was predominantly women, but it was men and women. But the point was everyone just wanted to be part of the same thing, which was, this is dare I say it, a vibe that you've created. Yes, well, it's all about the vibes in 2026. I know this much. So one thing I want to talk to you about regards your festival in particular, but obviously festivals in general. It sounded like you were saying before that there's a lot more focus, thankfully, from the education sector on film as a career as opposed to an artistic output. And again, just speaking anecdotally over the years, all the effort that it takes to make a short film is often exhausting to people and also blinding, because then it's made and they're like, right, now what do I do with it?
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about the path towards these films being seen, to kind of using festivals as a launching pad onto distribution, I assume, because I don't know what is the distribution market for short films these days, because on the one hand there's a million places that they could go, but I suspect no one's really interested in programming them on streaming or Channel 4 used to put late night shorts on that kind of thing.
Acts, bring it back.
Does any of that exist anymore? It feels like shorts only live online, and therefore it's still down to the person to kind of, you might go and win 10 festival awards, but it's still kind of down to you to bang the drum and turn that into something else. Is that fair? Like, what's the ecosystem like?
No, it's definitely fair, and it's one I really try and push a lot more, and we're doing a lot more development on pitching and distribution, because I think once they finish their short film, the natural route is to go down the festival route, and that is because you are guaranteed screenings, and those screenings, it's great. You can put a laurel on a poster and you can write it down, but what do you actually get from that? When you're going to that festival, what are you doing? Are you networking? Are you taking business cards? Are you taking merch? Like, one of the filmmakers last year had personalized stickers. Another one had like those paper things. They had those branded for their film, but they're memorable experiences that a producer is going to take away on the train back to London and be like, oh yeah, that film was really good, let's give them a call. So it's looking at how they're doing each of those. You have to be your own marketing team. You have to be your own hype guy. Like, you have to do that, and it's picking strategically. Are you actually going to get to that festival? Okay, you got in a festival in Chicago, but you're not there, you're not banging that drum, you're not doing that. What's the online presence? The shorts I'm producing at the moment, I'm saying to them, like, you need a marketing plan now. Oh, but we're not in a festival. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You need to build an audience now, someone to follow your film. It's like a band with a CD. It's like a TV show. You need to market that consistently, not in an oversaturation way, not in a content like farming way. It's, what's the story? Why are people invested in this story, and what is next?
But don't you think that, obviously, being creatives, that they're not really that good at marketing? Or
absolutely,
so
which is where like a good producer comes in handy.
Right.
A good producer is creative and also business savvy, and I think a lot of people forget that about producers. They just think, oh, it's the money person. They're going to bring money in, and they might have a clipboard on set and look busy, but a good producer will champion your film from being on page to being on a festival spreadsheet and pushing that through.
Yeah, I mean, to me, who has not directed, actually never technically directed a short film, produced but never directed, but if I was going to make one this year, I'd be sitting down, starting off with the script, and I'd be assessing the script as ruthlessly as I could, as like, how commercial does this feel? Now, there's a lot of different things that I would put into that assessment as to what I would class as commercial, but like, we've obviously been through a process recently, so as you know, because you helped us spread the word, we ran a competition last year to give someone a chance to make their first I'm going to say a proper short film, because we knew that they would have made stuff at university or little bits and pieces, but this was a chance to effectively have something produced, and therefore called it First Shot. So we're in pre-production on that now. We're looking to shoot in the summer. And, to get to the point of deciding who was going to win that, obviously we had to listen to everyone's pitches and read scripts and stuff. And, there were some in there where you look at them and you go, well, I can see that that's a technical exercise that if you were able to pull it off, for example, some of them, there was more than one involved filming underwater. Just something as technical as that.
Interesting.
So that's something which could look fantastic and is technically a little bit harder to do than film a conversation like this. But is the story something, or are the elements of that which, so in the end, part of the decision-making process was obviously we picked something which, frankly, is a little bit of a hot button topic, you know, in terms of the script, because we thought, well, that's got a little bit of edge to it, and therefore it's got something that we can hang a hat on, perhaps marketing wise.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to say that we've sat yet and identified the festival route, but obviously it's part of our thinking, including in the casting, which obviously I'm not going to give away, but we're talking to some people who have a little bit of profile, which is another thing, which if you can put certain names and certain credits on posters and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting because you just obviously mentioned, well, the creators that know about marketing, but the truth of it is, if we extrapolate from there to there and you go, right, you're sat in front of the chairman of Paramount tomorrow, maybe Warner Brothers, not Paramount.
Whoever this is.
You're not in front of David Ellison, you're in front of someone else. The point being that they're going to say to you, yeah, great, you know, how many quadrants does this hit? How many people can we market this to? That is a core part of getting a film made in that system. Now, of course, there's always going to be the true artists of the world who just go out and make a film just to make the film, of course, and still get distribution, but you have to be able to think at least along two lines. I'm not saying you have to think along one, but you have to be able to have something of a commercial head, because otherwise, why are you trying to make inroads in the industry? Like that's the direction that you're headed anyway.
Absolutely.
Those are the questions you've got to answer. So in terms of the workshops and things that you do, whether it's at the festival or just in your day-to-day work, it sounds like that is kind of trying to take, I'm pleasantly surprised to say this now, but almost take the mantle from education, who are starting to do that, and push that further to kind of just keep nudging people back into line, almost to say you need to think about the lifespan of this beyond the next festival or where you want to get it to.
You do, because it's longevity as well, and it's career building, and it's, you know, it's great to have the idea of like, I'm going to make a great film, everyone's going to love it, all the festivals are going to take it, but there are, like you said, 1,000 short films. You know, I work for another festival, they've got 1,500 this year. So your film doesn't have to be just good.
How many will the program at 1,500?
Probably at 200.
There you go.
So your film doesn't have to just be good, it needs to be great. And a big part of that is the marketing package around it. And that's, people often push back and they're like, oh, but it's about my creative vision. That's your creative vision. Your producer is the one that does all this. So you find a producer who will fight that for you, work collaboratively together to do that. And think about other ways outside festivals too. I mean, there was a TikTok that someone sent me in the summer where someone said like, oh, all film festivals are scams, like you should just put it online. I'm like, how much stuff is just on Netflix right now? How much stuff is just on Prime? How much stuff is just on Disney? You are competing against, like, it's not social media anymore. We are an entertainment platforms where I can go on my phone and get distracted for several hours. And you are competing against that. But also, you know, think about your local cinema. Could your short play before a feature film? Go to a lot of films I'm seeing are going to Parliament. They're getting a round table of people together about social films, social issue films. Could it go to Parliament? Could it go to a charity? Could it go to a school? Could it go to the Girl Guides? Probably not right now. There's so many ways your film could do well outside of that, but just putting your film online, you know, it's not 2010. You know, YouTube was finite then, and you had great creators and you had platforms, and everyone had like a list of people they would regularly watch. But now it's just an abyss. I mean, you leave it on, it would just play and play and play and play and play and play and play. And you need to stay to your creative vision. That's not having a commercially viable film or having a successful festival campaign is not removing your creative vision. It's part of that. Margot Robbie's a good example of this with Barbie. You know, Margot Robbie, Greta Gerwig, great cast. She still had to fight for that. She still had to say, I'm going to make you £1 billion at the box office. That's Margot Robbie. So I think you can do a marketing plan for your short film. So it's looking at that side of it, really.
Well, and also, one doesn't discount the other. You can still have a strong creative vision and be artistically pure in the film. You just need to be able to understand that that's great. And if all you're going to focus on is that, you have to accept that maybe only you and your mother is ever going to watch the film.
Exactly.
However, if you want a career in the industry, you have to be able to think a bit bigger, because the bigger part of the industry is getting the film out in front of people.
Absolutely.
Which, a couple of things on that. You mentioned a minute ago about, you know, well, you have to pick and choose which festivals you go to. Like, are you going to travel to Chicago, say? There's presumably some element of if you happen to hit it right, it could be that being in one festival which is right is more powerful than being 10 festivals which aren't, because if you are at that festival and you meet the producer who loves your film, that's obviously worth its weight in gold, as opposed to, you know, so there is an element of that, which of course I know luck's involved, but people such as yourself can help shape depending on what the project is. I'm sure you can give advice to say, well, actually for this type of thing, you probably want to be looking at these festivals, because that's kind of, you know, which is quite important. There was another question there, which has gone completely out of my head.
I was going to ask a question
Please
on the back of what you just said. So, I mean, leading on from what Matt just said there, how do you go about choosing the right festival for the right project then?
It's definitely different. I mean, we've got 2 films in our slate at the moment that are finished. One is a drama horror, one is a B horror, and one is a drama that is about the after effects of sexual assault. One was filmed in the North by a Northern film crew, one was filmed in London by an American film director. So there's a few ways to look at that. You're looking at, we went to the hometown of Maggie and went to the festivals around that time in her home state. And we're like, well, she's homegrown, so this is for you. With Kate in the North, obviously looking at across the North, she was a debut filmmaker. So it's looking at what festivals had categories for debut filmmakers.
Okay.
And what festivals, had very strong female-led themes. What festival had previously programmed shorts like that, so we knew that they were already liking those stories and they were successful. So it's a lot of research into it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And it's also budget as well. There are some festivals that are great, but they're £60 a pop. That's a lot. When your festival budget was, £500 for each of those films, that's over 10%.
Including travel.
Exactly. And then you've got to think about travel. So even if you do get into that film in, Bristol, if you're traveling from Newcastle, you've got to do that. And some festivals have budgets to compensate that, which is fantastic. But it is a lot. If you've got 200 filmmakers, everyone wants a hotel and a train and all that stuff. That's massive amounts of money.
Yeah.
So it's looking at that. It's looking at your BAFTA festivals. It's great that if you get into BAFTA, that's fantastic for your career. It's brilliant. But they are more expensive and they are more competitive and they're not as local. We don't have a BAFTA festival in the Northeast yet.
Yes, you were talking about that.
On time.
Where is the nearest one then at the moment?
It would be Aesthetica, so down in York. So not too far away, but obviously from Newcastle.
Not the Northeast, no.
Yeah, that is. It's not the Northeast, that's right. And then other than that, you've got to go right over to Manchester. So that's it. It's York and Manchester, and then after that, I think it'd be Glasgow and Edinburgh.
Right.
So, and that's a big pattern within the industry. Not a lot, even with female organisations, women in film and TV, they don't do events in the Northeast apart from us.
Right.
It took me 5 years getting them to come to our festival. Big fan of them now, But
what was the reluctance then?
I think it was just it not been done before, and it wasn't viable. We're not a viable region to people in London. We're too far away. We haven't got a big show here anymore. We haven't got big names here anymore that have come from here. We've got incredible talent, but it's, they'd rather go to Manchester. It's easier. It's more, Leeds is more recognisable. Manchester's more recognisable. And it's the same with Reclaim the Frame. So they do touring of female directed feature films. They never come to the Northeast. And a big part of that was actually when the BFI moved out of Tyneside Cinema. So it's that knock-on effect where, that was an issue, but there was now a gap. So part of me kind of wanted to fill that gap. Part of me also wanted to challenge it to be like, I've been asking you for 5 years. Why are you not coming up here? Because everyone else is.
Yeah.
But yeah, to go back to your question, it's strategically looking at what they can get from each festival. Like, does that festival offer, industry sessions? Is there going to be a meat market? Is there going to be networking? Is there awards? Is there a cash prize?
Right.
And you're competing, and festivals are in competition with each other.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Not a lot of them like to admit this. They're like, oh no, we can all exist. We can all exist.
Yes.
But we are competing for filmmakers.
Well, everyone wants their exclusive. Everyone wants the thing
You
that they
do,
can show.
and there's some that want premieres. I don't, because I feel like we're like Blockbuster. We just love pre-love material.
Yes, yeah.
That old video shop style. People. There was one year when an alumni filmmaker said to me, "Oh, my producer, I've got a new producer. They won't let me come to you. They want me to premiere somewhere bigger." And I was like, "Good." And she was like, "What?" I was like, "Good.
Yeah, you can do that, and then
go premiere somewhere big, and then come do a home run.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. I'm not precious about it. Like, good." And she was like, "Oh," and then I met the producer, and I was like, "I heard about you." And you know what? That producer is there every single year.
Oh, great!
The premiere.
Great.
So
there you
need to. People want you to prove yourself, and it's
hold
frustrating.
them accountable as well. Yeah.
But I love being underestimated.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Nice.
I believe that, yeah.
Gives you that fire to create some good. Yes.
So where are we at so far in 2026 as regards the planning and the execution of this year's festival? Where are things at the minute?
So this year we are taking on feature films for the first time, which is uncharted territory. I've got it's a lot of schmoozing. It's a lot of premiere fighting. We nearly had one last year and then I lost it because it premiered somewhere else. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like I've been robbed. But that's the industry. That's that thing learning. Like when you don't know, you're like, oh, So we're learning with that, working with some really great studios and obtaining rights. But I think I've just been shocked by how easy it is just to be like, hi, I really loved your film. If you want to show it at my festival, please let me know.
Wow.
And people are like, you can't do that. I'm like, why? Who's stopping me?
Yeah.
There's no email police.
The worst that's going to happen is someone's going to reply and say no.
Yeah.
Or not reply.
And even then I'll be like, are you sure? We have cookies. Yeah. So that's like that. We're still working through that. I really want to show K-pop Demon Hunters. I really want to. I think the story behind it.
The song will come on again.
The song will come on again. It's following us everywhere. Right, yes. My algorithm is so cracked from my daughter. It's on my feed.
I was going to say, is this a song that you hear when you go to sleep at night? It's just playing in your head.
Yeah, constantly that. And Life is a Highway from Cars. That's my son's vested interest. I'm not getting that this year. But I love the story of K-pop Demon Hunters because they didn't think it was going to be commercially viable. They made no toys. They've lost so much money from being so pig-headed. Yeah. And I just love that story, that actually if you do believe in stories, that they could have earned billions from selling those bloody dolls. Yeah. So I really want to show that for that reason.
I'm sure by the sequel they'll have figured it out.
Oh yes. I think that'll break even or something.
The George Lucas playbook.
Yeah, the playbook of that. The roster. Yeah. But even with that, it's like, do you contact Netflix? Do you contact Sony? Do you contact the filmmaker crew? So it's me navigating all these uncharted things where there's no handbook. There's no like 101 dummies guide to run a film festival. The BFI made a guide like 15 years ago, which I think is the still current up-to-date guide. And it's so unhelpful. Yes. And I remember reading it and thinking, well, I'm never making a film festival then because it seems too hard. Yeah. Working out the features side of it, applying for funding, which takes so much time because we really dig into data. So, within Darlington is a town that has a lot of people that aren't in education, that aren't in employment. We have a lot of deprivation. And that is not a reason for barriers to film. Like, we should still experience culture, even if we are held back by, social and economical issues.
It's almost a word, I was going to say a dirty word. It's a word that people don't use is really what I mean. But, people get inspired by films and other types of art as well, of course. But you never know who's going to see something that makes them inspired to try something new or make a change or do something different. Yeah, it's very important. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's having that, if you can see it, you can aspire to something, can't you? And we're not the be all and end all. And, we can definitely be, we can't be all things to all people. And that's definitely not something I wanted to create. A lot of people said to me, why didn't you make the Darlington Film Festival? Because I didn't want to. Yeah. You already had Sunderland, which is an incredible festival. They've gone strength to strength. That's, 45 minutes up the road. You had Aesthetica. So I don't think we needed another festival in the region. We needed a women's film festival. Yes. We needed one in the region. And that's why I did it. But plowing through the films now, watching them, trying to work out how we're going to show all these films that are also great, but like as I said before, it's very competitive. Launching the script residency again, and just seeing this year we're really leaning into neurodiverse spaces too. So some feedback we have was that they want a calm space to watch films. Right. So it's like, do we run the main screening and then have a smaller room where you can have beanbags and lower lighting and have 20 people in a room? So it's just ensuring people can access film no matter the circumstances. That's the big thing I'm trying to champion, which is not the most glamorous route into the industry. It's not the easiest, but it's something that I can get to the end of my career and be like, I did it a good shot.
And you always sort of seem to be sort of pushing barriers and trying to address things which people have issues with as well. So I think that's a really good sort of motivator for yourself, So, well done. Congratulations on that.
Well, definitely congratulations, yeah. So I don't know if you've confirmed dates yet, but roughly when are we launching this year?
We're doing 4 days this year
4
as well.
Day, okay.
Yeah, 4 days. So September 17th to September 20th. Over in Darlington. We're across 4 venues this year. Still waiting for View to email me back. Just shout out to View if they're listening.
just go and knock on the door.
I'm sure I have. They're like, who are you? Stop coming here. It's growing sustainably. It's not. I don't want it to kind of like blow up and then just collapse into itself, which I've seen a lot of festivals do. It's sensible growth so that more people can enjoy it, and it's around for longer.
And tickets will be available when and from where?
They're now available.
No.
Yeah, early bird tickets.
Available now.
Well, this is another
from this website.
It'll be like old YouTube. Click the link below.
That's right.
Oh god, you can tell I was raised on the brick crew, can't you? But yeah, another thing we've learned is that to sell tickets 6 months before the event.
Yes.
So, which I didn't think was a thing before. So, yeah, learning.
Well, it's an event in people's calendar, something to look forward to, isn't it? Particularly people who are excited by and invested in film, which, again, my experience of interacting with the other attendees of the festival was everyone across the board was just excited to be at the film festival, excited to see new films,
Yeah.
So just to totally end one, I hope is going to be a very positive note, just broadening out beyond your festival to, this could be just the Northeast or it could just be the sector. Like, what's your feeling? It seems you feel very positive about the next few years. I'm not going to say like the next 10 years or whatever, but like, it seems like overall, obviously the work you're doing, but also what the people that you're working with and the ecosystem that seems to be expanding. Is it fair to say that we're actually in a better place than we were and that the next few years look a bit brighter, apart from the stuff we talked about the bigger stuff in the region, just on the more the grassroots level, things look a bit brighter?
Yeah, I think on the independent side, people are sick of algorithms and platforms now. They want different stories and they want to have that kind of curational freedom to seek out films that they want to watch. And that's really great for independent filmmakers because their films are right there for them. I know that Generation Alpha, which is scary to say is another one under Gen Z, they are really connecting to film. They want to be in a cinema. I think the letterbox users has gone up ridiculous, and the majority of that is Generation Alpha women. So they're using the website more than anyone else, which is brilliant. So I think enhancing the younger generation is frustrating for some people because they think, oh, what about us? We're being left behind. But it's really building that system where they're coming up and enjoying our content and we can work with them together. But there's some really great independent stories happening. And there's, some really great festivals enhancing that, and also independent companies too, which is really important. So, yeah, I'm hopeful for the future. And, people are wanting to go more analog, which is off a screen and maybe in a cinema, which would be very good and exciting.
Truly analog, as in on film?
I think, we got more films on film last year than ever before.
Really?
Did you have any equipment to play them?
Well, this is not on film. It was from the laptop. But yeah, I think that's the next step they want to go down. Because it's so ridiculous. Like when I see people with the digital cameras, it makes me feel so old.
Yeah.
Like my first short film was shot on a digital camera. And they're like, look at this, it's so chic. And I'm like, it's not chic. That was me in a nightclub. Like, that's not chic.
Absolutely.
Around my wrist, dancing. So it's fun to see how they're engaging in film in different ways. Yeah. And, there was someone gave someone a DVD at the festival last year. I witnessed someone take a DVD out of their bag and give it to their friend.
Well, weirdly, I was going to ask you that before when you were talking about people, branded merch, that kind of thing. Anything to keep your film in the mind of the producer or whoever you met.
Yeah.
Do people, I appreciate there's IP issues around this, but we're also talking short films, so it's a limited thing. I assume there must be people just giving away copies of their films to certain people. If you to me, if I was at a festival, I met someone I thought was going to potentially work with me, I'd want to have a copy of the film to say, well, there you go, watch it again, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Do people do that?
They do, but it's mainly like QR codes. So it'll be QR codes and stuff, but the stuff is exciting. Yeah. I think someone was doing like lollipops last year with like the little tag with the QR code on them. The film was about like candy and things like that. But I think the DVDs would be fun. If someone handed me a DVD, I'd be like, I'm impressed. I would then be worried about how I was going to watch it.
Yes.
Because
it'll be a coaster by the end of the
day. It's being invented. And the key thing is to stick in someone's mind, regardless if they actually watch the film. Like if there was a QR code on the back, I'd then watch it. But it's being memorable. You have to stand out in the crowd, which you've always had to do in the industry, regardless of what decade we're in. Yeah. So, I think that'll be quite exciting.
Well, I said I wanted to end this on a positive note. I'm going to quickly dip negative to come back to positive. You mentioned Barbie a couple of minutes ago.
I did, yeah.
When that film came out, I think I was in the Barbers, and I overheard a conversation between two, I was going to say residents, members of Generation Alpha.
Okay.
And one of them said to the other, have you seen Barbie yet? And I went, yeah, but it's just so long. It was like 2 hours long. And the other one was like, yeah, I wish all films were like, a film should only be an hour long. And I sat there and I just thought, I think we might be in trouble. However, after talking to you, I know that we're not.
Yeah.
So that's totally get it right back to positive.
Yeah, they need to. I remember watching The Godfather and turning the disc over.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, because it's that long. It works
the
on
early
one
days
side
of
the disc.
DVD, they had flippers. Yeah.
Flippers, yeah. So they need to. They weren't in the trenches like we were. Like remember when you used to watch a TV show and the box set would be a box.
Yeah.
You'd have to keep switching the disc between episodes.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, now you don't have to touch it because it just auto plays.
I wake up and 5 episodes have passed where I've fallen asleep.
Yeah.
Imagine them saying that 2 hours is too long.
Oh yeah. All films should be an hour, Tony.
They would never
not even
through The Godfather.
not even just that too long. Film should be an hour.
1 hour.
That's it.
It's a challenge to make. They should watch independent films because they are shorter.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Well, yeah. I suppose that is the argument that short films should be a booming industry. Really.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Well, I do think that's been a very positive conversation. I'm very happy to hear about. I mean, we've covered in your story just over a decade there, but it sounds like you've witnessed and helped push forward some good change. Obviously, I've witnessed the outcome of that with the festival. I look forward to attending this year's festival as well.
Thank you.
The tickets are on sale now. We will put a link somewhere in here to say buy your tickets. Trust me, it's worth your time. Buy a ticket for the festival. So thank you very much for joining us. I hope this has been good. I've enjoyed it. Tony, have you enjoyed it? By the look on your face, I can tell you've enjoyed it. Thanks everyone for watching / listening, and we'll see you on the next one.